In the quietness of our home, I often find myself reflecting on the journey that's unfolded. It's a story of anticipation, challenge, and the simple joys that light up my days. My name is Sandra, and I'm in the final stretch of my first pregnancy. The mix of nerves and excitement is a constant companion as I prepare to welcome a new life into our world. My husband, Jerry, works a typical office job with weekends free, but his presence at home, especially in these pivotal moments, feels absent. He tends to retreat to his parents' house every weekend, seeking comfort in the familiarity of his childhood home, leaving me to manage on my own. Despite the physical caution advised during these later stages of pregnancy, like avoiding heavy lifting, I've adapted. Friends occasionally step in to help with tasks that have become challenging, but my days follow a predictable rhythm, preparing breakfast for Jerry, tidying the house, and venturing out for groceries, all before returning to my sanctuary to prepare our evening meal. Recently, I've discovered a newfound passion for blogging. It's become a cherished ritual, capturing and sharing snippets of my day, from the meals I create to the beauty of nature in our garden, finding solace in the engagement it brings. But life's not without its hurdles. One evening, as I was about to serve dinner, Jerry came home, his usual self, not mindful of the disorder his arrival created. "I made hamburgers," I told him, trying to maintain a lightness in my voice, though his attention had already drifted elsewhere. It's been 2 years since we exchanged vows, yet the warmth and consideration I yearned for seem distant memories now. An argument erupted over something as trivial as beer, a reminder of the disconnect that's grown between us. Jerry's insistence, laced with frustration for me to run an errand, despite my physical discomfort, left me bewildered. His lack of empathy in expecting me to cater to his demands, as though my pregnancy was a mere inconvenience, was disheartening. Yet in these trials, moments of unexpected kindness remind me of the goodness that surrounds us. Running into Mary, a neighbor, during an unwelcome errand became a silver lining, her company briefly lifting the weight of my spirits. Returning home to Jerry's impatience and indifference, I couldn't help but question the foundation of our relationship. The silence that followed our exchange was filled with unspoken words and a heaviness that lingered into the next day. Jerry's ability to overlook the previous night's discord, as if it were merely a forgotten dream, contrasted sharply with my struggle to move beyond his harsh words. A barrier had formed, one that silence and distance seemed to only reinforce. In the face of these challenges, I find strength in the small joys and the anticipation of our growing family. The journey is a mix of light and shadow, but in every moment there's a story waiting to unfold, a lesson to be learned, and a future to be embraced with hope and resilience. On a typical morning, as the dawn barely broke through the curtains, the familiar sound of hurried footsteps echoed through our home. "I'm off to work now, so try to understand," he called out, a hint of expectation in his voice for some form of acknowledgement or appreciation. His words left a bitter taste, a silent urge to retort with, "Shouldn't that apply to you too?" Yet, all I found myself capable of was a deep sigh, a mix of disbelief and resignation, as I wished him a cautious farewell. "I won't be home for dinner tonight, see you," he added, without any further explanation, before disappearing into the day. Left to the silence of our home, I carried on with the daily rhythm of chores and errands, a routine that seemed both comforting and monotonous. Jerry's offhand comment about skipping dinner lingered in my mind, leading me to opt for a simpler meal for one. However, as dusk settled and I was about to embrace the solitude of my dinner, an unexpected twist occurred: Jerry's return. "I'm back. Thanks for your hard work," he announced, a sudden shift in plans due to a canceled outing. Surprised, I mentioned that I'd only prepared enough for myself, given his earlier message. His reaction was swift and harsh, a mixture of disbelief and anger at my lack of foresight. The sight of the modest meal before him only fueled his discontent, prompting a tirade about my culinary skills and financial prudence. His words were a sharp contrast to the care I'd taken, a painful reminder of the endless comparisons to his mother's cooking. "I can't eat this, go buy something," he demanded, a command that felt both unreasonable and demeaning under the circumstances. Feeling a mix of hurt and indignation, I found myself caught in a spiral of frustration and disbelief. His departure to his parents' home, following a series of complaints, left me in an unexpected state of relief. Yet this was short-lived, as the next day brought a confrontational call from his mother, accusing me of neglect and worse. Her words, refusing to acknowledge any explanation, pushed me to a low point. With Jerry's absence, I allowed myself a moment of peace with a late brunch, yet the thought of his return loomed over me. Determined to mend fences, I planned a special dinner, pouring extra effort into selecting ingredients and including his favored beer, hoping to bridge the gap his harsh words had created. The evening awaited with a beautifully set table, a testament to my efforts and hope for reconciliation. However, as hours ticked by without any sign of Jerry, worry and confusion took hold. Attempts to reach him proved futile, and the growing concern led to a moment of panic, considering the worst. It wasn't until the late hours that Jerry finally stumbled home, visibly intoxicated and barely coherent. His harsh, drunken tirade, rejecting my help and insulting me, was a shock to my system. The words he hurled in his state were a painful blow, highlighting a chasm of misunderstanding and hurt that had grown between us. In these moments of reflection, the challenges of communication, respect, and empathy within our relationship were glaringly apparent. The pain of his words, the struggle for appreciation, and the effort to maintain harmony were battles I faced alone, wondering where the path would lead us next. Amid the silence of our home, my heart weighed heavy with the realization that perhaps Jerry no longer regarded me as part of his family. The effort I poured into preparing a special meal now seemed in vain, as tears blurred my vision, leaving me to dine alone in a cloak of solitude. The dawn of a new day brought no solace, as Jerry, nursing a hangover, seemed oblivious to the turmoil of the previous night. "My head hurts, but why did you leave me in the hallway?" he questioned. His words laced with an expectation for my care despite his own choices. His indifference to the efforts I made and the lack of communication about his plans left me with a profound sense of disappointment. Jerry's casual dismissal of my worry and his suggestion that his social life exempted him from basic courtesies only deepened the chasm between us. The realization that lowering my expectations might shield me from further hurt was a cold comfort. The decision to retreat to my parents' home for a respite from the tension felt like the only viable option. Jerry's demeanor, increasingly dismissive and even derogatory, pushed me to contemplate a future perhaps better navigated alone, especially with the impending arrival of our child. The anticipation of meeting our baby offered a glimmer of joy amidst the strife, buoyed by the support of neighbors and friends. Jerry's abrupt proposal for a family trip, inclusive of his parents, blindsided me. The complexities of our relationship, compounded by the strained dynamics with his parents, made the suggestion all the more bewildering. My concerns about the timing and the logistics of travel so close to my due date were brushed aside with a dismissive assurance that all would be well, leaving me feeling trapped by decisions made without my input or consideration of my well-being. In a bid for guidance, I turned to a trusted friend who echoed my apprehensions about the imprudence of the trip. Yet, as the departure day loomed, I found myself grappling with how to voice my reluctance, ultimately resorting to expressing concern for my health as a last-ditch effort to stay behind. Jerry's insistence, however, brooked no argument, propelling us toward an uncertain journey. As we prepared to leave, a sudden warmth at my feet signaled the unexpected onset of labor, a stark reminder of the delicate balance between our plans and the unpredictability of life. The reality of the moment brought both panic and clarity, underscoring the urgency of our situation and the need for immediate care, casting all previous disputes and plans into stark relief. As soon as I felt the sudden rush and realized what was happening, I urgently told Jerry, "I think my water just broke. We need to hurry to the hospital." Jerry, clearly caught off guard, could barely hide his astonishment. "Really? Are you sure?" he asked. I affirmed with a sense of urgency that it was indeed time to head to the hospital, as our baby seemed to be on the way. While trying to manage the situation, Jerry, in a panic to keep the car clean, unexpectedly opened the passenger door and urged me in disbelief, "You need to get out. You'll mess everything up." Shocked by his reaction, I could hardly process his words. "What do you mean? We need to get to the hospital," I protested. But without consideration, Jerry insisted, stating he needed to clean the car, and forcibly helped me out in a state of confusion. Jerry, overwhelmed by the unfolding events, stated, "I can't handle this. We were supposed to be on a family trip. You should get to the hospital on your own." I was too stunned to respond as he drove away, leaving me stranded and overwhelmed. In this moment of need, Mary approached, concern etched on her face. "Are you okay, Sandra?" she inquired. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Mary quickly arranged for a taxi and provided comfort and support throughout the journey to the hospital. Her kindness brought me to tears, and I was deeply grateful. At the hospital, Mary stayed by my side, offering words of encouragement and comfort as I was admitted. She even contacted my parents, who arrived looking worried but ready to support me. Mary discreetly mentioned something to them before stepping out as my labor pains began to intensify. Amidst the pain, my phone buzzed with a call from Jerry. Despite my parents' disapproval, I answered, only to hear Jerry in a state of panic. Unwilling to engage, I ended the call quickly, focusing instead on the task ahead. Despite turning off my phone, messages from Jerry kept coming. Eventually, I was taken to the delivery room where, after enduring intense labor, I finally heard my baby's first cries. Surrounded by my parents and Mary, their smiles provided a deep sense of relief and joy. Exhausted, I rested, waking later to find my parents by my bedside, their faces etched with concern and love. They reassured me about the postpartum period and the well-being of the baby, who was momentarily away for tests. I realized Mary had left but promised myself to visit her after discharge to express my deep gratitude for her help. Turning on my phone, I found it flooded with missed calls from Jerry, which I chose to ignore, reflecting on the recent upheaval and considering the future of our relationship. Friends visited, offering support and sharing in the joy of my baby's arrival, yet also discussing the recent challenges with Jerry. My parents, informed of everything by Mary, supported my contemplation of significant decisions about my future with Jerry, including the possibility of divorce. They offered unwavering support as I planned to stay with them post-discharge. Jerry's attempts to visit were denied at my request, underscoring the need for space and reflection. The next day, Mary visited her, presents a comforting reminder of the support system surrounding me. She advised care and rest, highlighting the importance of recovery during the postpartum period. Her visit was a bright spot, reinforcing the strength found in the kindness of friends and family during challenging times. As I accepted the fruit basket from Mary, a wave of gratitude washed over me. "Mary, I can't thank you enough for being there for me. Without your help, I don't know what I would have done," I said, my voice thick with emotion as I gave her a deep bow. Mary's laughter, light and comforting, filled the room. "The most important thing is that you and the baby are doing well. I was just happy to lend a hand," she responded, her kindness enveloping me. "I'm just glad I could help. Once things settle down, I promise to visit you and thank you properly." The conversation turned to Mary's husband and his reaction to the incident, which revealed his anger towards the situation. Mary, with a seriousness I hadn't heard before, implied that Jerry's actions were unacceptable. It was then I learned that Mary was more than a neighbor. She was the wife of the CEO of the company where Jerry worked. Our friendship had blossomed from chance encounters, growing deeper over shared coffees and casual meetings, unbeknownst to Jerry, who remained distant from our neighbors and oblivious to Mary's identity. Mary had always been discreet, advising me not to share her identity with Jerry to avoid complications. Despite Jerry's unreasonable behavior towards me, especially during my pregnancy, Mary had offered to intervene, but I declined, not wanting to cause any further trouble. However, the recent events seemed to have pushed Mary to a point where she felt compelled to act, signaling a potential turning point for Jerry at his workplace. Mary's support and willingness to stand by me highlighted the depth of our friendship. "You're a dear friend, and I couldn't just stand by," she said, reaffirming her support with a reassuring smile. Amidst these revelations, Jerry's attempts to reach out continued, but I chose to ignore them, focusing on my future and well-being with my baby. The clarity of mind about pursuing a divorce became stronger with each passing moment. Just before leaving the hospital, a friend visited, showing me a social media post that had quickly gained traction online. It detailed Jerry's recent behavior, now widely criticized across the internet, thanks to a viral video captured by a bystander. The backlash was not just towards Jerry, but had also extended to his parents, causing a stir both online and in their community. As we discussed the unfolding situation, my phone rang, displaying a call from my mother-in-law. My friend, half-jokingly, suggested I use the opportunity to confront her. Yet, overwhelmed by everything that had happened, I felt a profound sense of exhaustion with the entire ordeal. Feeling overwhelmed and unsure of how to react, I chose not to answer the persistent calls from my husband and in-laws. Their names filled my missed calls log, a constant reminder of the turmoil that had erupted since the incident gained attention on social media. Even the hospital staff, aware of my situation, provided unwavering support, ensuring I had no direct contact with my husband or in-laws during my stay. As my discharge day drew near, my only concern was the possibility of encountering them outside the hospital, a thought that left me anxious for my baby's safety. However, my worries were quickly alleviated on the day of my discharge. As my parents and I were getting ready to leave, the sudden appearance of my husband and in-laws, calling out and causing a scene, initially startled me. But before the situation could escalate, men in sleek black suits formed a protective circle around me, one of them courteously opening the car door and assuring me of their presence to ensure my safety, on a directive from someone who cared about my well-being. My parents seemed to be in on the plan, their smiles reassuring me that everything was under control. The bodyguard's presence deterred my husband and in-laws from approaching any closer, leaving me to reflect on my deep gratitude towards Mary for arranging such protection. As we drove away, safe from any confrontation, the thought of how to properly thank Mary for her immense support occupied my mind, a sentiment echoed by my parents. Despite starting a new chapter of my life that promised brighter days ahead, attempts from my husband and in-laws to reach out persisted. Unmoved by their continuous efforts, I took the significant step of sending them divorce papers, though their acceptance seemed unlikely. When my in-laws attempted to contact us directly, asserting their expectations of me despite their treatment, my father's firm response made it clear that their views were unacceptable. It was evident that professional help was needed to navigate this situation effectively. Fortunately, my father knew a reputable lawyer, and upon explaining our circumstances, we received a promise of assistance. Informing the lawyer about the video that had circulated on social media and detailing the events leading up to this point, we sought to address the situation formally. Initially surprised by our decision to involve a lawyer, my husband's defiance soon became apparent. He insisted that marital issues should be resolved privately without external intervention. However, the lawyer, maintaining a calm demeanor, began to lay the groundwork for addressing our concerns through the legal system, indicating a path forward that prioritized my and my baby's well-being and safety. Upon Sandra's guidance, all further discussions should now be routed through me. Sandra reserves the right to choose if she wants to get her lawyer involved. My husband, initially stubborn about not divorcing, found himself reconsidering when faced with the possibility of mediation or court. The mere mention of court made him grudgingly consent to the divorce. Despite having no desire to maintain a relationship with our child, I couldn't understand his refusal to contribute to child support. Regarding the division of assets, he denied any wrongdoing. The lawyer tried to reason with him from a legal standpoint, yet my husband remained skeptical. "It looks like we'll see each other in court," the lawyer suggested. This proposition alarmed my in-laws, who had been listening in. They quickly agreed once the lawyer shared this with them. This revelation left me astounded, questioning my decision to marry such a person. Since moving back with my parents, I've kept in touch with Mary. She humorously proposed that I should target my ex-husband's pension through garnishment. Impressed by her sharpness, I was later approached by the lawyer, who informed me that my husband wanted to apologize in person. I opted for a phone conversation under the lawyer's supervision. On the day of the call, surrounded by my family and the lawyer, my husband urged me to return home, blaming me for his misfortunes and demanding an apology. His tirade continued until I calmly informed him that the call was being recorded and would serve as evidence. Shocked, he pleaded for forgiveness, promising to change. I ended the call, handed the recording to the lawyer, and requested it be used as evidence. The lawyer, echoing my parents' sentiments, agreed my husband hadn't changed. The divorce process concluded smoothly, with fair agreements on asset division and child support. Mary's intervention led to my ex-husband facing disciplinary actions at work, eventually resulting in his dismissal. His inability to secure stable employment, coupled with a tarnished reputation from a viral video, led to financial and social challenges for him and his family. As life began to normalize for me and my child, we visited Mary to express our gratitude. Our families bonded, with Mary and my mother becoming close friends, and an unexpected relationship blossomed between me and Mary's son. Reflecting on these events, I marveled at the unexpected turns my life had taken, embracing the surprises along the way.